Welcome to Truth and Liberty. Thank you for joining our daily live call-in broadcast where trusted leaders bring biblical insights to the issues, and you can call in and get your questions answered in real time. According to the Bible, it's the truth you know that sets you free. So call in today to get answers, information, and resources to help you stand for truth and effect godly change in our nation and the world. And now here's your host, Richard Harris.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth and Liberty Show. I'm Richard Harris, your host, and we have got a great lineup for you in today's program. So sit back, grab your popcorn, let your friends and family know. It's going to be a great show, and we're so thankful to have you watching. There is so much happening in the news that, it's getting tough to know what to talk about on the program. But today, we're going to be focusing in again on some of the things going on at the state level, because what happens locally eventually will happen nationally. And here at Truth and Liberty, we are located in Colorado, which most of you know, and Colorado has become a deep blue stronghold. How did that happen? And what can we do to turn this thing around? So I'm going to introduce our guest in just a minute, but you might think, well, I live in a red state, so it doesn't matter. No, that's absolutely not true, because the strategies that are implemented here in Colorado are actually on the agenda in your state too. So don't go away. You won't want to miss what we're talking about. But before we get to the guest and the discussion, I just wanted to remind you guys that the Truth and Liberty Conference is right around the corner. September 12th through the 14th on the campus of Harris Bible College in Woodland Park. We're going to be holding our annual conference, and it's going to be amazing. Ben Carson is going to be speaking along with Rick Green, Bill Federer, Marjorie Dannenfelser, who leads Susan B. Anthony List, the largest pro-life organization in the world, are going to be ministering, along with Luke Ball, who's one of the frequent guests on Flashpoint. He's going to be joining us. And in addition to that, Torben Sondergaard. And you may not have heard Torben's name, but Torben was an evangelist from Denmark who fled to the United States because of religious persecution. And guess what happened to him in America? He got arrested here and was held in confinement for 18 months. You're going to hear his story and his testimony. He is a powerful minister. And then we're going to have amazing workshops that will empower you and equip you to stand for truth, including one that's led by our guest today, Heidi Ganahl. So let's go ahead and jump into this. It's my privilege to have Heidi on the show again. Of course, Heidi's been on before, but let me give her a proper introduction. Heidi is an entrepreneur and CEO, and also was the last time around was the Republican nominee for governor in the state of Colorado. And her story is one that's outlined by overcoming adversity, beginning with the loss of her husband at the young age of 27 and financial hardship. She picked up an entrepreneurial spirit and became the top dog. In other words, the founder of Camp Bow Wow, the Fight Back Foundation, Moms, I'm losing my track here, Moms Fight Back, and the She Factor. Camp Bow Wow was named to the International 500/5000 list as the fastest growing company in the country for 5 years in a row. That's incredible. She was named as one of the Fortune magazine's 10 most promising entrepreneurs, among the top women entrepreneurs in the country by Parade magazine, and on we could go. Heidi, thanks for coming on the show. It's an honor to have you with us.
Oh, it's so great to be back, Richard. There's so much to talk about, especially in Colorado. Things have gone a little bit sideways here, so I look forward to a very feisty conversation.
Absolutely. Well, Heidi, I can't believe that it's already been 2 years since you ran for governor here in Colorado. That was an amazing time, and it was such a devastating loss, but true to form, you didn't let that stop you. And since then, you have been fighting tooth and nail to give conservatives in Colorado the tools and equipment we need to fight back. You want to kind of bring us up to speed on what's been going on in your work and life since then?
Sure, Richard. It was a gut punch. It was a tough loss for Colorado. I just was so disappointed that we couldn't turn things around by becoming governor. But after that, I sat around a little bit and cried in my soup. And then I was like, get off the couch and get busy and figure out how to fix this. And the good news is, by going through that process, I saw where the gaps were, and I understood how the other side, keeps us from getting into office. So what I learned is how to activate the grassroots, how to build a way to go up against the liberal media, which is very, very strong here in Colorado, and also how to use good data and technology like the Democrats do to win elections. And so that we've launched a pretty big initiative called the Road to Red initiative here in Colorado, which is all about getting back to basic blocking and tackling, rebuilding our movement, one activist, one county, one group at a time, and then also building a messaging machine so that we can get around the liberal media, and that's called Rocky Mountain Voice, which is a free news source. We have a newsletter, and we're trying to get away from the liberal bias media and give you news that is truthful and honest and you can rely on. And then finally, we've been investing a ton into really good data and technology and voter information so that we know who we're talking to and how to talk about the issues that we care so much about.
Well, that's amazing. So Rocky Mountain Voice, tell us a little bit more about it. It's I know it's a website, a streaming platform, right? Where you can catch various podcasts and blogs and articles, right? Yeah, Truth and Liberty is on there.
Yes. Yeah, it's really fun, Richard. I had no intention of opening a media, agency, but here we are. And so it's a website where you can go and get news. It's updated all the time, several times throughout the day. The Mountain Minute newsletter comes out 4 or 5 times a week. It's a 5-minute read. It gives you a recap of the news. And then we also have all your favorite radio shows, podcasts, TV shows on the platform in one place. So it's really easy to find all your favorite conservative voices rather than having to pick and choose and go to different websites. And it's also about external community, like going around the state and hosting fun rallies and events and being at wonderful conferences like yours and spreading this word so that we can all start to work together. And it's not about being a Republican, it's about being a conservative, about being a Christian, about building community again.
Well, the other thing you mentioned I think is really important is the data piece. And how are you helping? It's not just about like you running the show or something. You're trying to equip other organizations. And one of the things I think you discovered, you told me this in your campaign, was all of these grassroots groups that are around the state, patriot moms of such and such county or whatever the case might be, trying to make a difference. And you're coming alongside them now and helping them with real political tools.
Well, my background is franchising with Camp Bow Wow, and so in franchising, you have the franchisor, and then you have all your franchisees, and you have to build systems and processes to help and support all of them and get everyone swimming in the right direction. And it's the same thing here. So we have all these wonderful little grassroots groups all over the state, including all the county GOP groups, 64 of them around the state, that are all doing their own thing and hiring their own people and investing in their own resources. And what if instead of that happening, we have one resource center and one team that's deployed to help all of them do great things and work together and swim in the same direction? So that's what we're up to. They've done this in Texas very effectively, and we're being mentored and supported by some folks in Texas who've done this over the last decade. So we know it works. This is something that isn't just brand new out of the blue. And we've got some incredible donors that have backed us and helped us support what we're doing. So it's a 501c3, the news side is, so it's free. There's no paywalls, ads, sponsors. And then on the Road to Red side, which they're two distinct organizations, we've got resources, including the Texas folks, to help all of our grassroots groups around the state. So all of a sudden, if we have 100 really, independent, spirited groups, and we get them going on all cylinders, and we get them growing, they may go from 100 members to 1,000 members, and all of a sudden multiply that times 100, and you've got your movement again, right? And it's happening very quickly. We've got about 60 groups around the state that we're helping right now. Wow, that's awesome. So if folks are watching and they want to find out if you can help them, what should they do? Just email me at Heidi@HeidiGanahl.com, or you can go to any of my social media. It's just @Heidi Ganahl, and send me a message through one of the platforms, and I'll connect you with the right people. All right. So do we have, if we've got that info, let's put that up on the screen now. For those of you who are watching and you're from Colorado and you're frustrated like me trying to find conservative news in this state, be sure to check out Rocky Mountain Voice, because it's becoming, and it eventually will be, the leading source of conservative news in the state. So you want to check that out. Now, Heidi, you, like I said, you're going to be teaching at the Truth and Liberty Conference, one of the workshops. And I love the workshops because that's where we get down to brass tacks and we help people with practical information about how they can make a difference. And so you're going to be one of the workshop presenters, and you're going to be talking about
how to activate, right, from a grassroots level.
Yeah, how to actually do the work to get someone elected. So right now, we've got a very important election coming up in under 100 days. We've got to get President Trump elected. We've got to win our 4 congressional races that are really critical here in Colorado with Jeff Hurd, Jeff Crank, Gabe Evans, Lauren Boebert, and of course we have some other great candidates too, but those are the 4 really critical races that we have to win to help President Trump do his job once he gets into office. So there are a couple tools that you can use, and we'll talk more about this at the workshop at the conference, but there's an app called TP Action. It's Turning Point's app. It's free. You can download it on your phone. You can sign up in 5 minutes, and it's like a little activist toolkit in your own phone.
Yeah.
You don't have to work with anybody else. You can sit on your couch and text message, call. You can go out and door knock. You can send postcards, and you can help in the key 19 counties around the country as well, and some of the key races. It's really important, and if you could do 100 a day, which may take an hour, hour and a half maybe, you know, President Trump took a bullet for us. We can at least give him an hour a day of our time to help him win this election.
Wow, that's amazing. So I just heard about this from you, just as we sat down, but to go on the show here, it's called Turning Point Action app. So I suppose people could Google it and find it, or maybe in their app store or whatever.
Yep, just go into the app store and it's TP Action. And you download the app and it'll have you sign up. They want to make sure you're conservative. And just, I think you have to be a registered Republican.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then it's the whole world opens up for you and all kinds of tools and resources. And if everybody can share that, we can get everybody on that app using it. And you can use it in your own neighborhood, like I said, or you can use it in one of the key congressional races in Colorado, or you can, you know, help in Philadelphia, Detroit, Las Vegas, Phoenix, all the key areas around the country.
You know, I mean, we say this all the time, Truth and Liberty. We're all about getting people activated and mobilized. Here's something you can do from your couch, from your, you know, your bed or whatever, when you're sitting there watching TV. You guys, everybody could do this. What would you give to be able to say, yeah, I helped Trump get elected. I volunteered and I helped swing the Senate to Republican control. So this is not just Colorado. This is across the whole country. So I'm going to check that out after the show. I hope all of our viewers do too. Well, Heidi, one of the things I think too that, you know, conservatives get frustrated with sometimes is the Republican Party, you know, and sometimes we feel like it doesn't really, you know, speak for us or whatever, and we get frustrated with politics. But in your experience, you know, 2 years ago and now, in all the work you've done, kind of can you comment on what's the condition of the Republican Party in Colorado at this time?
Unfortunately, it's not good. There's a lot of infighting. It's pretty irrelevant for the candidates right now. Most of the candidates are doing their own thing. They're not getting a lot of support from the GOP. And there are some good people in leadership at the GOP that have good intentions, but they're having a very difficult time right now fundraising and getting resources for the candidates, because ultimately their job is to help get people elected. In my race, I didn't get $1 from the state GOP, and I was running for governor of Colorado, and very little help. Every once in a while, a press release would go out, but that was about it. And so the county GOPs are really where the action is. I would encourage everybody to volunteer at their county GOP and ask how they can help get out the vote. All the counties are working on get out the vote efforts. That, along with your Turning Point app, those are 2 pretty critical things that you can do. But there is a meeting coming up on August 31st that was called by the GOP to see if Dave Williams would survive as chair. He has to call for the vote, so I doubt that's going to happen. So they're actually tied up in court right now. Some other folks, Todd Watkins and Nancy Pelosi, who's the chair of Jefferson County, Todd's the vice chair of El Paso County, have filed to do a meeting to do just that, to call a vote of the Central Committee, which is 415 leaders in Colorado, and they would have to get 60% of those to vote to oust Dave. So that's about 250 people. They had a meeting last Saturday set up, and the court shut it down. So there's a temporary restraining order. So they're battling it out in court to see if they can call a meeting to do this. But at some point, we've got to just drop this and just go to work. Yeah. Because this is wasting precious resources and time.
Well, it seems like in Colorado, I'm not speaking nationally, but in Colorado, lots of Republican parties are just sort of circular firing squads, right? We're always shooting at each other. Well, you're not pure enough in your beliefs, and you don't believe this and that, you know, and we're always undermining each other. What's it going to take to unify the party here?
Well, I truly believe we're going to rebuild the grassroots one group at a time. Like, let the existing groups, the Women of Well, the El Paso County Republican Women, the Spunky Patriots, all the different groups that have their own flavor, their own individual, spirit about them, do their thing, but give them tools and resources to help them grow as they are, instead of starting some new thing that we expect everybody to join and just be part of a one big blob. That doesn't work for Republicans. We know that.
Yeah.
We're very independent minded. So we've got to do that, and we've got to focus our ire on the right target, which is the Democrat Party and Kamala Harris right now. We've got to win this presidency. So let's put down our differences. Let's get to work. There's a few issues that we can focus on that will win this election, and that's one, the border, what's happening with immigration. There's also the overseas wars and what's happening with Ukraine.
Right.
I don't want my son to go to Ukraine to fight for a money laundering scheme, basically. I care deeply about the people there, but that's another issue that people are very upset about. And then what's happening to our children and this war, this culture war about traditional values, and you can see it play out at the Olympics right now.
Yeah, no, you can. I mean, in the news right now is a male boxer fighting a female boxer in the Olympics, and 40 seconds into the bout, she quit and was crying, and how unfair that is. It's amazing. And then you had the whole display, of course, the sacrilegious, blasphemous display at the opening ceremony, Heidi. It was encouraging to see Christians sort of come together and condemn that thing, but still, we have so much work to do, and from the international level, but all the way down to the local level. And one of the things that's happened in the last 4 years and in America, it seems, is that the left is capitalizing on state ballot initiatives now. Something that they've always been good at, but man, have they really been ramming stuff through, like abortion things and other stuff like that in many different states. Colorado's got some on the ballot this year. I wanted to just touch on those and sort of find out what's going on, what do you know, and what do we need to get behind here?
Yeah, we have a very unique system here where we can take citizen-led ballot initiatives to the ballot and have voters vote on them outside of the legislature, but sometimes it can be a bad thing. Like they're trying to basically make abortion law, as it stands right now, up until birth or after, in the Constitution instead of just a law that can be changed.
Right.
There's also 2 ballot initiatives that are very important that they've been collecting signatures for. One is to keep biological men out of playing in girls' sports. The other is to make sure that parents know if their kids are wanting to change gender at school. Both of those things should be very common sense.
Absolutely.
But we've got to get them on the ballot. And then this week is when they turn in the signatures. If you haven't signed those signatures, those petitions, please do. You can go to, I believe it's Colorado Kids, Protect Colorado Kids.
Protect Kids Colorado. Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron, I almost messed that up. I'm talking about Erin Lee. She's a wonderful leader of that movement.
I think they're really close, but if you've got, if you're listening out there and you've got a petition you haven't turned in yet, be sure to get that turned in right away. And if you haven't signed, go on the website and find where you can sign, because every signature is going to count at this late hour. So I think they're due the 5th or something like that. So
pretty quickly.
And what about ranked choice voting?
Oh, that is one that's not being talked enough about.
Yeah.
We're going to do a big series on it on Rocky Mountain Voice.
Okay.
If you see California, when they have their elections, it's called a jungle primary. Anyone can run. So take out the caucus system, take out the primaries, we usually do it. Say people want to run for U.S. Senate. Anyone who wants to run has to get a very limited number of signatures to get on the ballot. It should be pretty easy for people. And it doesn't necessarily put the party, or if it does, it's very subtle. And then the top 4 vote getters, no matter what party they are, go into the general election. So you could have 4 Democrats running, and you could have 4 Republicans. Probably not going to happen in Colorado. And they go into the general election, and it's going to basically make the Republican Party obsolete in Colorado. And that's exactly what they want. It's being led by Kent Thiry, and I believe it's because he wants to run for office, and he's doesn't fit the profile of someone who can win in either party, so he's trying to do it this way. But
yeah, well, we had some guests on a few weeks ago about this, and it can be kind of confusing these ballot measures are saying, and what is this system, and the Kent Thiry and his team are doing a great job of selling it, but the truth is it's very undemocratic, and it will cause bizarre results, just like Sarah Palin in Alaska, who won a primary when she was running for Congress after she ran for vice president, running for Congress, and she ends up losing to the 4th place finisher in the race because of their ranked choice voting. Now, everywhere that's done this, except California, has repealed it because it's so wrong.
Yeah,
so
85% of states that have done this have repealed it. That should be our sign right there.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
absolutely.
Vote no.
Yeah, absolutely. Vote no on that. Well, let's talk a little bit, if we can, about some of these other bigger issues. And, let's talk about economics for a minute, Heidi. You're a businesswoman. You understand a lot of this stuff, and you see how it actually, government action or inaction, can impact the economy. I just saw today, I think it was today, that the jobs report is out and unemployment is now up. It's going up. It's now at the highest level since October of 2021. We still have super high inflation. We've got mortgage rates, 7.5%. Is there an end in sight on this thing? What's going on?
Yeah, the end is elect Donald Trump for president, and he'll do what he did last time and rev up the economy and reduce regulation and red tape and give us back our freedom to create businesses and jobs. Right now, so many of the jobs being created are government jobs. Right. It's just growing feeding the beast. And in Colorado, Jared Polis has grown the size of government tremendously. And there are so many more government employees in Colorado. That's not who we are. We are individual, rugged, folks that the wild, wild west. We want to go out and create businesses, create wealth. And that's who we are as America, too. And so we don't want to live in a government nanny state. And that's what's happening right now. So that's really hurting the economy. And also not tapping into our energy industry. We should be drilling, and becoming energy independent again, which I believe will happen under President Trump.
Well, this Polis administration and the Democrats that control the state legislature here are pretty radical people, really. Yes. Now, Polis does a phenomenal job of selling himself as a moderate, but he is not. And if you talk about energy, what have they done to the energy industry here in Colorado?
They've destroyed it. And now they're going after the hunting industry. The hunting industry is a $1.8 billion industry in Colorado. And you'll see there's another ballot initiative that just got on the ballot, I believe, to do away with hunting mountain lions and a couple other animals like that. That's going to devastate the hunting industry. And the hunting industry is very important to conservation and to keeping the ecosystem balanced. And we're very particular about how we allow that to happen. It's not like willy-nilly you can go out and hunt whatever you want. But that combined with the introduction of wolves, and that combined with Jared Polis and his partners' venomous attitude towards the ag industry, the agriculture industry, is devastating to our state, and it's destroying many family ranches. It's really, really upsetting, and we're not talking enough about that. There's also a fur ban bill going on in Denver, and this is also an attack on the ag industry and the hunting industry. And that goes back, it all kind of leads to the Second Amendment too, and all the attacks on the Second Amendment and our gun rights, which I think is going to be a really important underlying issue in this election in the fall.
Yeah, a few weeks ago I had Representative Baisley on, and we were looking at some of these bills that the legislature here has passed. And I know, folks, if you're watching and you're from some other state out there, you're like, this isn't relevant. No, let me tell you, this is coming to a state near you, I promise you. Yeah. The legislature here passed some bizarre laws, Heidi, like saying, if you build a new multifamily development, you can't have any parking requirements in your zoning laws. I'm like, what? Normally, when you build something, the zoning laws and the building codes say for every unit you have to have so many parking spots. What they're doing is they're trying to enforce this wild, what's the Great Reset people idea?
15-minute cities.
15-minute cities. This is environmental extremism at its worst. And they're, and all this. So we've got to fight back. Well,
and this is affecting lives right now. I mean, this is basically, companies are being asked to charge carbon fees for employees who drive to work, and they're trying to kind of push everybody into these central locations so that you don't have to drive anymore, which sounds great in theory until you get on the light rail and see what a mess that is. And also see what's happening in our inner cities with homelessness and crime and just devastation in Denver, and starting to happen in Colorado Springs. And Pueblo, of course, has a horrible crime rate and homelessness rate. So be careful what they ask for at the Capitol. They're going to get it, and I would hope they would be forced to live in these situations too. I don't think Jared Polis is going to give up his several ranch properties to live in downtown Denver and live by his rules.
No, of course not. Well, I think they have a vision of Hong Kong or one of these Chinese cities where people are crammed into these skyscrapers. You remember during COVID, some of those images and people just crying out because they were trapped in there, cramming everybody into these big cities. I'm telling you, it's environmental extremism. And they like passed a gun law requiring tracking of firearm purchases. You have to keep, if you have a gun in your car, you have to lock it up in the car, right?
That's going to work really well when you get carjacked.
Yeah, right.
Can you hold on a minute while I unlock my gun?
Yeah, that's right. No firearm, no open carry on college campuses, you know, all of this stuff. And this is how it is with liberalism. They go after all these external things, and they never realize that the real problems that we're facing in humanity, I mean, this is a little bit of Bible. We get spiritual here for a second. These are internal issues, Heidi. It's about individual responsibility, accountability, faith in God, love of your neighbor, and these kind of things, stuff government can't force, right?
That's right. And one thing I want to say about activating, and I'm talking to you, my Christian friends, you've got to get your churches involved in this election. A Letter to the American Church, we've talked a lot about that, and I was able to meet Eric Metaxas. It's a wonderful book. It's horrible, the topic, and how it goes back to what happened in Nazi Germany. But if the churches stay quiet, it's devastating for us, our society, our culture. And if 64% right now of voters in Colorado ID themselves as Christians, if they all voted their values, that's 2.8 million out of the 4.4 million registered voters. We win every election, hands down. So if everyone can vote their values and really think about, you know, what does God want you to check the box?
Yeah.
How would he like you to check the box? We're going to do really well in the election. If not, it's not going to go well.
That's right. Well, you know, Truth and Liberty, you know this, but we're doing our Transform Colorado initiative, and we're going to be printing over 1 million voter guides covering key races around the state. And they'll also be available on the website, transformcolorado.org. So now they're not out yet. It'll be late September before they're ready, but you'll want to check that out. And they're designed for use in churches. So we don't endorse a candidate, but we do just tell you, based on research, where the candidate stands on issues that matter from a biblical perspective, so that Christians can vote their values. That's what we're doing here. So super important. I agree 100% with what you said there. If the church would, I mean, just vote, right? Just vote. And if we would do that, according to biblical values, you know, this nation would be turned around in a heartbeat. So.
Well, you guys are doing great work. I have to say, Richard, you were one of the most impactful organizations that I coordinated with, or didn't coordinate with, we're not allowed to do that, but like worked alongside to try and get churches to turn out voters.
Yeah.
And I'm really just proud of your efforts and what you're doing, and you and Andrew are making a big difference.
Well, thank you, Heidi. I really appreciate that. It's great having strategic partners like you and others, and that's what we need to do is come together. You know, unity first. We've got so many other issues that we want to talk about here, but I think it's a good time for us to take our first break in the program, or our only break really. We're pretty much at that mark. So we're going to take about 1.5 minutes now. Don't go away. You won't want to miss what we've got coming up next, but we're going to share some important information with you, and we'll see you back in about 90 seconds.
With Practical Government, you have experts in the field that are sharing their perspective, wisdom, and experience. It's not available anywhere else in the world.
We're going to teach a Christian heritage of our American government. They're going to learn about the Founding Fathers. We're teaching the Constitution, how government operates, practical skills, and field study.
No matter where you're coming from, the world needs you.
Whatever God's calling you to do, you're able to do it.
To learn more, visit practicalgovernmentschool.com.
I want to give you a special invitation to join me for our Truth and Liberty Conference on September the 12th through the 14th. I tell you, these conferences are some of the very best meetings I have ever attended in my life, and this year we've got Dr. Ben Carson with us, Pastor Che Ahn, Bill Federer, Marjorie Dannenfelter, who's head of the pro-life organization in the United States, Rick Green, Luke Ball, Richard Harris, and myself. It's going to be a great, great time here at our facility in Woodland Park. We're going to have workshops in the afternoon and just a lot of different ways to help equip you so that you can be salt and light in this society that we live in. Join us for our Truth and Liberty Conference, September 12th through the 14th in Woodland Park, Colorado.
Yeah. Well, what did he say?
Thought we're live now.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. We're live, but my countdown clock is still going, so I apologize, you guys. Sorry about that. Well, there you go. So here we are, Truth and Liberty Show. Heidi Ganahl is my guest. She's the former nominee of the Republican Party for governor in the amazing state of Colorado. And so we're just talking about all things politics, national, local, everything else here. Heidi, I'd like to talk some more, if we can, about Jared Polis. There's probably not a lot of people that know more about the real Jared Polis than you, because you ran against him. I will say this, that he is a very skillful politician, right? He knows how to present on a good face, while behind the scenes, he's advancing a really radical agenda. Am I right on that?
Absolutely, and it started 20 years ago with the blueprint, when he and 3 other billionaires got together and put a plan in place to turn Colorado completely blue.
Yeah.
And we had everything back then. We were very conservative, and we had the House, the Senate, the governorship, all the statewide offices, and they completely changed it over 20 years. But they were very intent about what they were doing. They had a lot of money behind them. And Jared Polis has had a vision to become president one day, which he's pretty far along in that process right now. In fact, he's putting feelers out. You know, he wants to be the VP candidate, of course. And if not, he'll run for president in 2028. So I'm really frustrated by how he makes decisions that are up about advancing his political career, not what's best for Colorado.
Yeah.
We see more and more people leaving Colorado that either can't afford to be here or don't want to be here, or are run out of here because they can't jive what's happening in our state for their kids and their families, especially as Christians. So I wish we could lay bare, if the media would lay bare his true agenda and what he's up to, but instead he's on Fox News talking to Dana Perino, who's a Colorado gal, and being treated with kid gloves and called a libertarian or a moderate. There's nothing moderate about Jared Polis.
Yeah. Well, Jared Polis, of course, he's a homosexual and married to a man. And one of the things that he has done is advanced a radical LGBT ideology in our schools and everywhere else in Colorado. Colorado, a child, one of the things the Democrats have done under his leadership is a child as young as 12 in this state can go and get psychiatric care and treatment without parental notification or consent. I can't even fathom. Imagine if your child did that and you didn't know and weren't told. What about abortion? They can, a girl as young as 12 can seek an abortion without parental notification, and many other things. We talked many times on the show here about what's going on in our schools. But what can you say about this and how anti-family his agenda has been?
Well, it's radical. It's radical to allow abortion until birth. It is radical to allow a 12-year-old to get psychological care without the parent being involved. It's radical to allow a child to change their gender without parents knowing. It is radical for men to compete, biological men to compete in girls' sports. Everything about this agenda is radical. Just because the media softens it up and makes you feel all warm and fuzzy about what they're doing if you're a Democrat, doesn't mean that it's okay. And it's our job as Christians, as leaders in this community, to call it out and to make sure that it doesn't go to the root of our family, because what they ultimately want to do, what Marxists want to do, communists want to do, is break down the family unit, because that's the strongest part of our society is our family. And then, of course, our churches. They're trying to devastate our families and churches and break away kids from the parents. And they're doing it very effectively with social media also. Social media is very, very hard on our families and our children. Jonathan Haidt has been writing some great stuff about how to counteract what's happening with our children and social media and the internet. I would strongly encourage folks to read his work, but also just to have your kids put down the phone and get them away from what's happening there and get them playing games and being outside. And back to us 80s kids, when we left the house and told to come back at 9 o'clock at night, and drink out of the water hose.
Yeah, drink out of the water hose and ride in the back of a pickup. But So, Heidi, on this point, I don't want to beat it to death, but a guest on our show over the last few months, I remember somebody told me that in one of the northern Colorado school districts, 30% of the kids are now identifying as LGBT. We all know, we've interviewed Erin Lee and her story about how her daughter was actively recruited. And they did a documentary on it called Art Club. And she's not alone. There are other parents in Colorado, how the school lied to her, taught her daughter to lie to her parents, fought against her when she tried to speak up, threatened her with a child protective service investigation, all kinds of stuff like this. And now in this last session of the legislature, the Democrats actually passed a bill advancing, they want to set up quote unquote health care and mental health care facilities inside our public schools. Now, this is a radical anti-parent agenda. The government is going to become the parent of our children. The school, controlled by the Marxists, is going to be the center of human life and activity, and the parents are going to be out here on the margin. And you might think I'm crazy, people, that I'm being, extremist, but that's exactly what's happening.
I heard stories all over the state of Colorado, parents telling me stories, children telling me stories about what was happening in their classrooms. And I would suggest one of the most important things you can do for your child, if this is happening in their school, now there are some good public schools that are doing the right things, but if this is happening, take your children out of the public schools. Homeschool, micro school, churches can start schools. Whatever you need to do, get your child out of that school. Maybe put them in a different public school or charter school. But you've got to take that initiative as a parent, just like you have to take the initiative to get them off social media. And it's not easy. Believe me, I have 4 kids. Every day is a battle. And it's very expensive to make some of these choices if you're going to change their schools. But we've got to take control of our families and our children as parents and push back against this crazy agenda. And it's very intentional. We've talked a lot about that.
Yeah, it is. One of the other bills they passed this last session, I think they're calling it the Foster Kids Bill of Rights. Did you hear about that one?
I have, but remind me.
Well,
there's so much.
Yeah, so in the now foster parents are not allowed to talk to their foster kids about their faith. They're not allowed to take them to church, against the child's wishes. So you could have a 6-year-old foster child, and they say, "I don't want to go to church." Okay, can't take you to church. Let's say our prayers before bed. Nope, you can't do that. I don't want to. You can't. Right? They even say that a foster parent cannot search the child's backpack or cell phone or personal belongings. This means that they could even bring a gun into the home, and the foster parents can't do anything, wouldn't know about it, or drugs, or pornography, or any kinds of stuff. And it's like the parents have become the enemy.
Why would they do that? I always ask people that, why would they do that? They know that's not a safe or healthy way to interact with a foster child if you're the parent, if you're the foster parent. So there's definitely ulterior motives there, and I can only imagine what they are, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and another thing that's big in Colorado that, to me, the liberal media just never talks about, or if they do, it's in the wrong way, but it's the problem of immigration and illegal immigration specifically. I'm not concerned about legal immigration, but it's this illegal open door policy at the border. How's that impacting our state?
Oh, it's devastating, whether it's fentanyl and all the families that are losing their children to fentanyl because it's flowing across the border, or if it's crime, homelessness. I mean, we've all been experiencing what's happening in Denver when you drive there. Somebody's washing your window or, throwing stuff at your window so that they can clean it. And you're seeing homeless people, families on the street that have been told to come to America for the American dream. They're getting a lot of free support and services that takes away from support and services for our own children and our own families that are really suffering, American citizen families here. We have got to get this under control. The Democrats are intentionally opening the border. We have to quit acting naive, like, oh, they just aren't doing a very good job of managing it. No, they're doing a great job with the intention of opening the border, bringing people in, causing chaos in society, and getting them registered to vote.
I saw some numbers, it's been 2 or 3 months back now, but on how much the state and the city of Denver especially is spending on illegal immigrants, both in social services, in free housing, and in the schools. Just what the school district of Denver's public schools have to spend to take care of this massive influx of kids who don't speak English and have all of these desperate needs. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is money that we can't afford, we don't have, and that is taking away from legitimate government services for the citizens of the state.
That's right. And while I have tremendous compassion for people who are coming here, obviously trying to find a better life for their families, we've got to take care of our own families, our American citizen families first. And I look at the rates of kids that are Black and Hispanic in Denver public schools that can read. It's under 10% that can actually read and write at grade level. Let's fix that problem. How about kids that are living in poverty and can't find a meal? Let's take care of that problem. How about families who can't afford to live in Denver? Let's help them and take care of that problem, our citizens first. And I just, I think people are starting to wake up to what's happening, that it's very intentional. And this isn't just some willy-nilly, hey, everybody in the world come here, we want to take care of you and love on you. This is more nefarious than that.
Well, it is. It's time that we just call a spade, in my opinion. And for a long time, the Democrats tried to justify the open border as some kind of humanitarian thing, but that's obviously not what they're about. I mean, there are women and children being trafficked. There's fentanyl pouring in, killing innocent Americans on our streets, robbing our families. I mean, it's just absolutely tragic, Heidi. It's not about that. It's about power. And they're trying to affect the outcome of elections. That's pretty obvious at this point. I just saw a video today. This was in Florida, a driver's license center there, a state center. And there were hundreds and hundreds of illegal immigrants lined up around the building at 6 in the morning, waiting for the doors to open so they could get their driver's license. And you just have to wonder, how did they get there? Who brought them there? Who told them about this? And what is going on? We've got to put a stop to this.
Well, and it's no mistake. It's intentional that Jenna Griswold, our own Secretary of State, sent 30,000 postcards to illegal immigrants to remind them to vote in Colorado. So we're not immune to this in Colorado, and we have one of the highest per capita, I think, illegal immigration rates in the country here. Maybe it's in Denver. I haven't had the most recent stats, but when the mayor of Denver, the new mayor of Denver, who claims this is his #1 issue, is starting to ship people out of Denver, illegal immigrants, to other places in other cities like Salt Lake, something's going badly. And I just, every time I go to Denver, it breaks my heart to see so many people on the streets, especially little kids. So bringing more people here that we don't have resources for is not the right answer.
No, I mean, well, the liberals do it. They did it to themselves here. They declared Denver a sanctuary city.
Colorado's a sanctuary state.
Yeah, a sanctuary state. They block local law enforcement from assisting with immigration laws, filing lawsuits against sheriffs, like against our own sheriff here in Teller County. And all this kind of craziness. It's like, if you didn't know better, you might think they're trying to undermine America or something.
Yeah, it sure feels that way. And we have a wonderful man running for Congress up in CD6, Jason Crow's district, John Fabricatori, and he was the previous director of ICE in Colorado. He knows more about immigration and what's happening at the border than anyone else I've talked to or met. It would be amazing if we could get him elected up in CD6. It's going to be a tough race. Jason Crow has a lot of money behind him, a lot of resources. But John is speaking out about what's happening. He has solutions. He has real solutions about how to fix these problems. But you have to want to fix the problem. And right now, the Democrats are doing exactly what they want to do.
It's laughable, isn't it, Heidi, that when Donald Trump was president, he basically fixed the border. He wasn't 100% still building the wall. The Democrats would not even fund a border wall. But he got immigration down to the lowest, illegal immigration down to the lowest levels in years. And Biden takes over and the floodgate is open and they walk around wringing their hands as if it's some complex problem when all they have to do is enforce the law. It's just insane. How long will we allow ourselves to be lied to?
Well, and wait till more and more things start happening on the streets of Colorado, like this Venezuelan gang that they had some incidents with the other night in Aurora. There's more and more examples of people coming here illegally that are causing horrific crimes in our society. And with our children, our schools, our neighborhoods. So, at what point does it get bad enough that people vote differently? It's such a stark choice right now. It's open borders and chaos, or a strong border policy and law and order. It's economy booming and inflation down, unemployment down, or it's the stock market crashing, people can't afford to buy a house, they can't afford to buy groceries or gas. It's a thriving energy industry with drilling and fracking and providing our own energy sources to our own country.
Low gas prices.
Or buying it from bad actors in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So it's so stark right now.
It's amazing. Yeah, Biden takes over, and what does he do? He shuts down the pipeline, drains our petroleum reserves to save his own skin politically, and imposes environmental regulations like crazy. And then we start buying oil from Venezuela, a communist country, a dictatorship, and from Russia and all these other places. Again, if you didn't know better, you might think they're trying to undermine our country. But So Heidi, what about this whole thing of housing? Now, I hear in the news all the time, the cost of housing, the young generation, the 20 and 30 somethings, the newly marrieds and whatever, they can't afford housing. I was looking at some of these numbers for Colorado, and they're absolutely horrible. The average price of a home, I'm not sure what it is, but I know it's over $500, and it's probably over $600,000 in the Denver metro area. My first house 30 years ago was $52,000. Now,
you're not going to find one of those.
I'm not going to find it. You can't even find a shed for that. But is this just because of the free market, or is this because of Democrat policies?
This is absolutely because of Democrat policies. I'll use the example of the Marshall fires a couple years ago that happened up near Boulder. So many people lost their homes. That's my old neighborhood in Superior. I live in Douglas County now. And one of my dear friends lost her home, a beautiful home in Louisville. When they went to rebuild, the insurance companies couldn't even cover the cost to rebuild because they were putting in all these green policies, all these new regulations and red tape that people had to follow in order to rebuild because their houses were originally built 20 years ago. Now multiply that times all over Colorado, and that's happening every time somebody wants to refurbish their bathroom or redo their kitchen. They're having to they're having to follow new guides and regulations that are very costly to follow this new green policy. It's all about climate change. So it all kind of goes back to control and power and wanting people to live in spaces that are very, condensed and very small. And they don't want people having cars, especially more than one car. They don't want to have people having big houses where it costs a lot to, buy energy for that house and might contribute to climate change.
Yeah.
So there's lots involved. But at the end of the day, what's happening is that young people can't afford housing, so they don't have families, and they don't commit to raising a family together, and more young people are prolonging or not having children, which is leading to a very low birth rate in Colorado, and America. Elon Musk talks a lot about this and how important it is to encourage people to have families and have children, but right now people just can't afford it, and they can't afford housing.
Well, owning a house is one of the best investments you can make. You're right, it'll grow in value, it's relatively safe and stable, and we're depriving the younger folks of this opportunity. And I was reading some stats. This was from the Common Sense Institute, and this study showed that 66% increase in average homeowner expenses in Colorado over the last few years. And so it's just crazy. Once again, we see the liberal policies are hurting the very people that they claim they want to help. How are minorities, how are immigrants going to come in and ever be able to afford a $700,000 house in the Denver metro area? It's just insane.
Well, right now, a lot of illegal immigrants are living in very decent hotels because the city of Denver is paying for it, or it's various governments. So let's get back to helping our citizens of Colorado, our younger people, afford to be able to buy a house, to buy a condo, to get started, to start to move the needle, to have a family, and to have the American dream that they were promised that's slipping away right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that's why all of this kind of comes back to the Road to Red and comes back to Rocky Mountain Voice and the need for conservatives in this state, can I just say this, to get our act together, right? right? I think we have the knowledge. I think we have the resources. We've got to stop fighting each other, and we've got to start doing the blocking and tackling and the nuts and bolts work that it takes to win.
Yeah, and Richard, I would encourage people to kind of ignore what's going on at the state level and focus on your party, Republican Party, your county Republican Party, and then download that Turning Point app, TP Action. Get to work yourself. Don't wait around for other people. Maybe have some neighbors that you do it with, that you get together. Build community from the ground up. You've got great neighbors around you. You've got great friends, you've got great coworkers, you've got great other conservatives that get together, whether it's at the county level or in their community. Just start there, and don't worry about what's happening with the fray in the Colorado Republican Party.
Yeah, the stuff that's grabbing the headlines, don't worry about that. Just do your part locally, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, there's some great county leaders out there. We need more. We need more volunteers. Yeah. We need more donors, but I think we're going to get there. People are starting to wake up and come together. So I think it's good. But there's a few more issues I want to just talk about for a second, if we can. One of them, you actually served, you won statewide office and served on the Board of Regents for Colorado higher education. And so you know a little something about education, right, in the state. And you mentioned minority performance, blacks and Latinos reading at 10% reading at grade level.
Last time I looked, it was 5%.
I can't even fathom. That is so abysmal. It's embarrassing, it's angering, it's shameful. But even if you look at the numbers as a whole, our kids in our public schools in this state are performing at grade level. Only about 20 to 25% of them are performing at grade level, if I'm understanding it right. Yeah. Reading, writing, just the basics. Yep. What is going on?
Well, first thing, there are some incredible teachers. And I'm not putting this all on the teachers. The administrative bloat is crazy. Most of the money that's growing the budget is administrative, so it's not going into the classroom. So teachers have bigger classrooms. Class size is one of the most important things that affects the ability for teachers to teach and get their kids where they need to go. The ideal size is 12 to 13 kids in a class. Right now we've got 30, so it's really tough to teach. The other thing is that we're getting distracted by all these cultural and social issues and not focusing on reading, writing, and math. We've got to get back to basic blocking and tackling and kind of step back from trying to be the parent at school and just give the kids reading, writing, and math and basic stuff so that they can move forward. Also, it's got to be more on the parents. Like, us parents have to step more into the conversation and lead and get our kids tutoring if they need it. Sit and read with your child. Reading with your child is one of the most important things you can do as a parent. And I'm guilty. I get home, I'm tired. We turn on the TV and let the kids get on the iPads, and then everybody's asleep and we start Groundhog Day over again the next day. If you can just be more intentional about 20 minutes a night, we're going to read together as a family, or we're going to have a discussion about cultural issues or something fun, whatever. Having dinner together at the family dinner table is really important. So there's some things that we can do as parents to change this. Yeah. But you can also take your kids out of the public schools if you need to and put them in homeschool, micro school. And if you homeschool, you can get together with some other parents and hire a tutor. It's not like you have to do it. Yeah. But things have to change. Yeah, they have to change. And there's so many things we could say. Like, take responsibility for your local school board. Yeah. If your kids are in, if you're in even if your kids aren't in public school, you still pay taxes. And so you have a right to express your views, to know what's going on, but start going to school board meetings and learning what's going on. Speak up. This is happening all over the country, and I think we're beginning to see results. But what about, well, I wanted to mention something. There was something else on my mind, and this is a little bit of a detour, but last week I went to Oklahoma for a bill signing there. The governor of Oklahoma signed a bill allowing, or actually it required, every district in the state to establish a policy to facilitate off-campus religious instruction. In other words, Bible studies off campus using private money and not required. In other words, only if the parents want their kids to go. We're not going to force anybody. This has been legal. Nobody knew this, right? But has actually been legal in America since the 1950s in a Supreme Court case called Zorak versus Clausen.
One of my new favorite ministries in the whole world is called LifeWise. If you guys are taking notes, LifeWise Academy. They are exploding in growth as parents all over America are beginning to get with churches and set up Bible studies where kids can come so they have an elective, it's like once a week, twice a week, or whatever. Come in and study the Bible during school hours. These are public school kids, and it's having a major impact. Thank you for letting me jump on that soapbox for a second. There aren't any in Colorado yet, though, so we need to get our act together here and get some LifeWise campuses or off-campus Bible studies going. Heidi, it's funny, isn't it? This is something that frustrates me. You said less than 10% of minority kids can read at grade level, and yet the Democrat stronghold that they have over minority communities. How do we message better as conservatives? How can we get the truth out there that those policies they're pursuing are actually they don't work? Can maybe we wrap on this? Like, what can we do to communicate better as conservatives?
Well, a couple things. One, we're running against the media every day, so we've got to create our own media sources. That's why what you're doing is important. What we're doing with Rocky Mountain Voice is important. Ignore the liberal media. Don't read it. Don't watch it. Don't share it. Just ignore it, make it irrelevant. And let's create some news sources that are actually truthful and honest. And, there's bias in everything. Yeah. But let's pick and choose the stories that we know are true and more accurate. And then on the community level, it's all about relationship. So don't stay in your house when you get home. Go out, talk to your neighbors, go to your community events, start conversations. Humanize it so that we're not these, scary Republicans or scary conservatives. Yeah. Get to know people in your neighborhood. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Hold a coffee at your house. There's a really cool program called the Policy Circle. It's like a book club for women in their homes, but it's policy. So you study policy together. Wow. It's really neat. And it's not partisan either way, but it's about freedom-loving, independent, probably libertarian-ish issues. And so there's all kinds of cool tools and resources to do this. I think right now, download this app, TP Action, join your county GOP, at least get signed up for a list of events that are coming. Go engage. Don't just shut it off. You've got to engage. We've got under 100 days till the most important election in our lifetimes. It's not a joke this time. This is big time. Yep. It's really important. And get your church involved with Truth and Liberty. You guys have incredible instructions on your site about how to build culture impact teams and register voters at the church level. That's very, very important. And you don't have to tell them how to vote. You just have to get them to turn out and hopefully vote their values. Yeah, that's right. Well, and guys, be sure to check out all these things we've been talking about. Heidi, you've got your own show. I don't even think we talked about this, but can you tell us what's the name of it? How can people find it? Yeah, it's called Unleashed with Heidi Ganahl, and it's on YouTube and Spotify. It's a podcast, but it's also YouTube and Rumble, so it's video also. Okay. And I haven't been doing as many episodes because I've been launching Rocky Mountain Voice, but we're back in action in a couple weeks. We're going to start doing weekly shows again, and it's really investigative journalism. It's very fun and feisty, and we try and uncover things that the regular media isn't talking about, like the Bat Lab at CSU. Who knew that Colorado State University is funding a Bat Lab, like actually researching the same types of diseases that caused COVID. Oh. So just a little teaser there. Okay. We have an episode on that we put out, but lots of things like that. Okay, so Unleashed with Heidi Ganahl, TP Action app. Go volunteer for your county GOP during this election cycle, and check out Rocky Mountain Voice. Right? Okay, so that's a pretty good list. You guys have your homework now. And if you are involved already in a conservative organization here in Colorado, I also encourage you to reach out to Heidi again to see how the Road to Red might be able to provide you with resources or expert advice or whatever to help you become even more effective. So would you mind sharing your email one more time? Sure, it's Heidi@HeidiGanahl.com, or you can reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. It's @Heidi Ganahl. If you have trouble spelling my name, just put it in Google. It'll pop up. Don't look at what they're saying, because most of it's not true. But yeah, that's right. Ignore the liberal media. Oh.
Yeah. So, well, it's been great having you on the program. We really have enjoyed it.
Thanks, Richard. Keep up
Okay.
the great work you guys are doing.
Absolutely, we will. Well, folks, thanks for watching today on Truth and Liberty. I wanted to remind you about the Truth and Liberty Conference coming up September 12th through the 14th. Just go on truthandliberty.net. Register today. It's a free event. If you want a meal, you'll have to pay for that. Otherwise, come and experience this amazing conference. It's going to be life-changing. And also, Healing is Here is happening next week here at Charis Bible College. So come on out and enjoy the presence of the Lord at that conference. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching today.
Thank you for joining today's Truth and Liberty livecast. You can watch today's and past livecasts in our archives at truthandliberty.net. Our goal is to educate Christians and connect them with resources and organizations to help them impact their sphere of influence. You can help us accomplish this by making a donation at truthandliberty.net/donate. Join us next time for more Truth and Liberty.